What do you guys think you would do to react to this meta?
Buy the cannons 4 copies.
This is a much worse position to be in than we were with Hiram, right?
It is sad, isn't it, to see all these sorts of decks with such low representation.
I can't deal with 5 characters plus a big giant tramp on turn 4. And on turn 4, they can drop a Chromicon. How am I supposed to deal with that? How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Rarehunters podcast with Zan, Speci, and Earlmeister. We're going to talk about what happened this weekend. We have Lorcana stuff, DLCs, CCQs, and also Riftbound with the Rarehunters, and they did an amazing job in that tournament. How are you guys doing? There's so much things that happened this weekend.
Absolutely fantastic, but not as good as Speci.
Yeah,
what happened, Spec?
Yeah, so I was at Riftbound, started the day, or finished day 1, 7-1 with a Teemo deck, which I'd built myself. And then didn't have as good a day 2 as I would have liked. I kind of crashed and burned, but I just missed out on European qualifications, but I was the best performing Teemo player, which is kind of the main prize you can get in Riftbound, is to be the best performing player on your certain leader. And that got me this lovely metal Teemo best of card, which
Wow.
There's going to be 7 of these in English total, and
Beautiful.
We don't know the exact amount it's going to be worth, but we're probably looking at like $20,000 to $25,000. So
Nice.
pretty epic weekend. I did agree a split with another Teemo player who was neck and neck with me the whole time. I just edged him out. He lost the last round. I got a draw. So it was an awesome weekend. Really fun game. Extremely exhausted still, even though it finished like 2 days ago at this point. But yeah, looking forward to talking more about that. And yeah, it was an awesome weekend, and it's an awesome thing to have. That's for sure.
Congratulations.
Smart move.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about that really quick because it's something that I've been thinking about, right? In Riftbound, you get rewarded for running a specific deck, which makes the meta spicy. Obviously, people are going to run the decks that they think performs well in the meta, but also you get rewarded as the best player for a specific deck. And I think that if we can bring this into Lorcana, we're going to see a spicier meta in general. And I wanted to mention this as well. Like, for example, the Purple Steel Locations deck, which we're going to have as a guest, by the way, the pilot for that deck later on in the podcast. So you better tune in for that, everyone. If you can get like a reward for that, it would be really cool. Because that's basically like the golden Mickey for that player who played that deck, right?
Yeah, like the tournament experience I had was the most diverse tournament I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. Like there's, I think in the game, just under 30 different leaders at this point, and every single leader was represented by at least like 1% or so, right? Like 20 people minimum. And the reality was my first 8 or 9 rounds, I didn't play against the same leader twice. Getting on to the later stages of the tournament, I sort of played against some of the top decks you'd expect a few times. But I think actually it does a lot of things, right? It gives people like leaving feeling like a winner, even though I would have felt like a massive loser leaving this tournament in any other circumstances, because I was right up in the top tables, and then I finished the day with, I think, 2 losses, a win and a draw, and I kind of fell off a little bit. But because of this prize, I leave feeling like a winner. It creates like cool storylines for the broadcast. It creates a very diverse meta, but what I actually think that diverse meta does is it really tests you as a player. You don't just have to like know those 3 or 4 matchups. You have to know like all of the weird matchups as well. And that was actually my downfall in the end. I was kind of good against most of the weird decks, but there was like one deck which kind of proved to be my downfall, which is actually one of the top meta decks. And I wasn't comfortable enough playing that matchup. And ultimately that's what sort of cost me my run. And I just think it's just such an awesome thing. I know Star Wars Unlimited have done something quite similar. And I think Riftbound have really taken it to the next level. I think the way Lorcana would have to do it, there would have to be some sort of like dual link card, for example, that they just do as like a promo card, for example. It would be really awesome to see, I think, that's for sure.
What do you think about this, Zan? If it joins Lorcana, you would have been the best Amber Amethyst player and also a winner of a CCQ. I think that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, no, I definitely think that this is a great award. I call it the, bingo awards. Like basically you're just trying to align your bingo card, but not everybody has the same bingo card. And I think that allows multiple winners in tournaments. And that's the experience that we want to give people in the same tournament. Right now, it's like very top heavy, and I think that this is a free way to make it more balanced. Plus, artificially making metas more healthy is a great idea. I think that this does it in a rewarding and authentic way, and yeah, I'm all for it. I want more of this. Other card games definitely give us ways to improve, and I think that we should take those lessons and try to at least apply them for a season, right? What is it going to cost us? A couple of promos?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so exciting to think about. I know how many players there who are part of the blue steel cult and also the red steel followers, right? Like they've been trying to make this work, and it kind of sucks that you go into a DLC, you know that it's almost like a miracle run that you need to do for red steel to get to the top. But at least with a format like this, you get rewarded for being the best red steel player. It's really exciting. But anyways, I think it's time for us to get into what happened in DLC in Melbourne and also the CCQ in Axion. We had two big tournaments this weekend and two big tournaments with two different winners, but we have the same exact pretty much meta share when it comes to the tournament. What do you guys think about the meta share? Blurple is still the most represented one.
Not surprised at all. I think that this set really reminds me more of set 9 than it does of set 10. And the reason why I think that we've reverted back to the oppressive set 9 meta and the new decks aren't thriving is because of how powerful dogs has become. When there's one target, it's easy. When there's two targets, it's impossible, because the moment you adjust for one, you lose to the other. So it's a seesaw feeling, which I always feel is one of the most uneasy feelings in card games.
Yeah. I know the exact feeling of like, okay, if I tech for this one, I might lose this other matchup. But I also kind of like that aspect where there's no king in the meta, right? Like there's no one deck that is king. But for a competitive player's perspective, it makes our job harder.
I like one king. I'm gonna be honest. I like one king because, kings are, it becomes Game of Thrones. The king is being dethroned all the time, and I really enjoy that, right? But now when there are, the vice president is as strong as the president, it gets kind of tricky, right? Because if you take out the other one steps up, and they're basically identical twins.
Yeah.
I would just imagine, so obviously I was very busy this weekend, so I haven't actually seen any of the games or anything like this, but just with Blurple, you're sort of like looking at it. It's a good late game deck. It's got draw, it's got removal. And then you've got Dogs, which is sort of like not aggro, but it goes quite quickly and it just like stacks up the board. So you've got like this awkward spot, right? Of like, okay, you guys know me, I like my aggro deck. So I'm like, right, how am I going to build an aggro deck into this format? Well, Dogs is going to be a big problem. And then if I try and go like slightly slower, then suddenly Blurple is going to be a problem as well. So you're really trying to like thread the needle to find something that can attack both of them at the same time. And it's going to, I would imagine, be very difficult to do. Interestingly, the locations idea sounds like one sort of thing that I could see working. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing from the location player later on.
Yeah.
I think that was a really, really good sidestep, because locations are theoretically hard for Blurple to deal with because they don't put a lot of power out early on. Number 2 is Fire the Cannons plus Calhoun is like the best cards you could possibly have against Dogs, which are now more so centered around Willow.
Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to say as well, the difference between the two tournaments is the top 3 decks are exactly the same, but in DLC Melbourne, we saw a rise up from Amber Steel, which is really interesting for me, because I do think that Amber Steel is back in the meta, and then following right below Amber Steel is Blue Green, and it's the same for the CCQ. Instead of Amber Steel, though, we had Blue Steel players because of the influence of most likely Harlan in the UK is quite big, and then we have the Blue Green and Amber Sapphire right below it. We didn't see Amber Sapphire do well though in the tournament.
Yeah, I don't think that there is an established list. The way I describe the deck is it needs a target, and then it can take down that target, right? Like if we knew that Blurple was the top deck and there wasn't Dogs, then I think that you can build it to beat Blurple, or you can build it to beat Dogs. But to beat both from a place from the deck starting at completely unplayable to now playable to now being able to dethrone both kings is like,
It's really tough.
it's too much. It's too much to ask. Plus, I also think that there's a good player situation that's going on. I think all the good players, they're not participating in risky behavior, in risky deck choices.
Yeah.
Right? Basically, everybody's playing it safe. There are very few players that are willing to go out the normal colors. Like, when is the last time you saw DKP not play Blurple? When Blue Red was around. I would say the riskiest players probably Tiago, and he played Amber Steel in a best of 1 tournament. But in terms of best of 3, all the choices are in the trifecta of Purple Steel, Blurple, or Dogs. No one's going outside of those. So when the good players aren't willing to risk it, everybody else flocks to where those good players are going. And so that's the whole reason why I think that Riftbound has it in a better place, because everybody's goals can be different but still rewarding. Like, someone else's goal can be to win with Red Steel, and even if you beat them, they're still on track to maybe obtain their goal. And I want a healthier meta, even if it's artificially created.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was thinking though with blue yellow, so we kind of had the same opinions when it comes to blue green last meta, right? Because blue green didn't really show up until the very end of the meta. Do you think, I know it's too early to tell, do you think that blue yellow has the capabilities of doing the same thing that blue green did last meta, and be able to eventually show up and say that, okay, I figured out the meta now? Do you think we have enough cards in that color combination to actually make it happen and attack a certain meta?
Even in that meta, I wasn't someone who believed that blue-green was the best deck choice even at the end, right? It's just that's what happened that weekend, and we ran out of time. I thought the format continues to evolve, and I think Dogs continues to put up good numbers. Yeah, it's just that's where the meta ended up ending. It doesn't mean that that was the right choice. And if you look at their matchup spreads, they ran into Dogs a lot less, or they got into some miracle situations, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a key factor to point out. I think that you can play any deck and you can win with any deck, but the main thing that matters is if you get the matchups that you want, then you're more likely to win the tournament. And that's what the reward for Fungus and Sky was. And of course, they're going to make the right plays. It just more so has to do with all the stars aligning.
Yeah.
I think also, right, like Gent's coming up with 4,000 players, and that's the one where really, like, you're going to be seeing a lot of people who have been cooking up some spicy decks, maybe wanting to keep them secret and see if they can show up and perform. Because that's like a really interesting thing about a physical card game, right? There is like definitely lots of secret testing going on. It's not like a digital card game where everybody can see what everybody else is playing all the time. So very interested to see. I think Amber Sapphire, I just don't see how it could be bad with Raging Storm. Again, I haven't been able to see much stuff from the last week, so it's definitely a deck I've got my eye on, and I'm really excited to see how things develop. But I'm looking at this meta share, and it is sad, isn't it, to see Emerald Ruby, Emerald Steel, Ruby Steel, all these sorts of decks with such low representation. So that's definitely something I would love to see moving forwards. I think for me, I've been a little bit upset that we haven't seen more dual link cards recently. I think dual link cards are like such an interesting way to try and push these decks. I don't think we've had any for the last few sets, so I'm really hoping we get some of those in the next set. As much as I love Winter Spell as a set, I think that some dual link cards pushing some of these lesser represented color combinations would go an awfully long way.
Yeah. I agree with the dual link stuff. I really like it because like it forces you to run those two colors, but also they have like not just personality, but some of them have an additional type of like power increase, right? If you run this specific color, then you get rewarded for running those two colors by running those dual ink colors. Like Tramp is a great example of it. No other like single color or any combination has that type of ability, and you get rewarded for running those two colors and that archetype. And I really like that. I find that exciting, and it gives the deck more personality in general.
I think that a part of the problem probably has to do with the fact that cards have already been designed. So let's say you designed set 9 and you expected like Purple Steel to be the best deck, right? So you're like, oh, in set 10, I'm going to give Blurple more tools. And then in set 11, I'm going to give dogs more tools. But your initial prediction was wrong. So it throws everything off. So you keep supporting colors that don't need to be supported. So it all has to do with the in-house testing that's done. But for me, everything has been pretty predictable. There's been very little non-predictable moments. I would say green blue winning was not that predictable because they really needed to get the right matchups. I think that Monstro was an unpredictable moment, but everything else was pretty standard and predictable. While designing the game, you're also trying to predict the metagame, and I think that the predicting of the metagame is just not happening, or if it's happening very suboptimally, and we're ending up with the metas that we're in right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about tournament results really quick. Again, with the meta share, we know that Blurple is the highest share for both, but Blurple didn't win. We had Dogs winning on the DLC in Melbourne, and then we had Purple Steel winning on the CCQ. A very interesting Purple Steel list as well, because it's now going back to kind of like its old roots, like let's go fast with Purple Steel. And let's go talk about the 2 winning deck lists. We're going to start with DLC Melbourne. Let's talk about the dogs.
Nani's catching my eye immediately. This card's really impressive, right? Like a lot of these cards, which you're looking at the top 4, you kind of have to go out of your way to make them good at times. But Nani is just like a 3/3, the quest for 1, good singer, obviously with Under the Sea, but you're just already naturally playing a ton of these 2-drops, right? Like she's not a card that you're putting in your deck and then building around her. She's just a card which just happens to be very consistent. So, I mean, if you've got 20 2-drops or less, she'd be like 80% hit rate, right? And I imagine there's quite a lot more than 20 in here. So I imagine the maths on her is really good.
Yeah, I agree with the Nani. A lot of the times back then we run Clarabelle, so we can have some sort of reload with our hand. Let's get a card, but sometimes Clarabelle doesn't hit depending on the current game state or what part of the game you are in. Sometimes she just doesn't hit, and depending on the matchup. But Nani is almost like a guaranteed hit for this, and the fact that she's also 3 strength is something that synergizes well with the deck because of Gogo Tamago. Because eventually they would have to remove Nani, and now you get extra lore from the Go-Go trigger. What do you think about this deck, Zan? I mean, it's basically the same deck.
Yeah, I mean, this deck is basically the same exact deck that I played in set 9 or level 9000 played in set 9. The major difference is the Willows and the Nanis, right? But basically, the evolution of the deck was figuring out how many Under the Seas you were supposed to play, how many Chromacons you're supposed to play. So this list is a very safe list. What is this list trying to do? It's trying to play a Lady on turn 1, a Willow on turn 2 with a Webby. And that's going to allow you to quest for 3. So essentially, like, the deck is like just trying to be the most consistent version of the deck. It's not hedging its bets. It has like basically 0 slots in to be better against any specific matchup. It's just the cleanest version of the deck. Actually, just 0 slots to be good against anything else. Nani is a good card. It's a bit of an upgrade to 3 cost Clarabelle, but at the same time, if you think about what you need in the mirror match, you need cards that cost more than 2. I would say the thing that I like about it the most is, like, in the mirror match, you're able to find your Mowglis and Ursulas more consistently. Other than that, what this deck really demonstrates is that Willow is like next level. I mean, Willow just took the deck completely to the next level. And the other aspect of it is, before Dogs, if you missed a couple of lore, you would lose. Watching a lot of the matches from Melbourne, I saw a lot of lore that was missed, but that opportunity was available for you to make those mistakes because the deck is so much more powerful. So I didn't feel like I saw perfect play, and that's very concerning to me. Right now, it's at a point at which you can miss 2, 3, 4, 5 lore, but the deck is so powerful and so consistent that you can still win. And that screams to me that it's too strong.
Yeah.
I think that they should get rid of a card. Yeah. Too strong. And it's not like the mirror match is like fun for everybody. It's literally we're just flipping coins. So yeah, if this is a much worse position to be in than we were with Hiram, right? Because with Hiram, at least when the blue-red players were playing against each other, it felt like a very skill-intensive time. So
What would you get rid of? Would you go for the Grandmother Willow?
my answer is actually we should get rid of 7-cost Tramp. If we get rid of 7-cost Tramp, then the deck has a very solid identity in being an aggressive deck. And so decks like Amber Steel can exist because the deck can no longer easily play Under the Sea. So it becomes like what it's supposed to be, which is like this a nickel and dime aggro deck, right? As opposed to this like controlling aggro deck, which doesn't allow other aggro decks to exist because it can play Under the Sea. Like Tramp for a while has been one of the best cards, and it is at the point at which it's honestly too strong for Infinity, which we are going to experience in the future, and it's currently proving to be too powerful.
Yeah,
too much card selection.
Very scary deck to face again. That even Purple Steel. I've been testing Purple Steel, and this should be a very, very favorable matchup for us in Purple Steel. But when that high roll happens, it's hard to come back. Like how do I beat, like, even if I like power play and let's say I play 1-1 and then 1-2 with my board, I can't deal with 5 characters plus a big giant Tramp on turn 4 when they exert. And then on turn 4 they can drop a Chromicon. How am I supposed to deal with that? Like,
give us a Sisu back. Give us big Sisu.
No, I'd rather get rid of Tramp than get big Sisu back.
I mean, that's like, we talked about dual link cards, right? And I think Tramp was on the first round of them. And it's like, before Tramp existed, there wasn't really an Amber Emerald deck with like this kind of identity, right? It was like very much discard. So you can see what a big impact dual link cards have. And at the same time, maybe it's not Tramp's fault that the deck's got out of hand, right? But if you're ever going to ban something, actually a dual link card would be perfect, right? Because it's only going to impact that color combination. So I wanted to put you guys on the spot. I've done some maths on the Nani. So there's 40 cards that cost 2 or less in this deck. What is the odds of hitting at least one 2-cost or less character off this Nani?
I would say at least 75%.
I'm going to go with 98%.
98%. That's a lot of percent. 99.1%.
Great.
Pretty good odds. I like those odds.
I'm hoping for a lower odds because the deck needs a nerf. All right, so let's talk about the winner of the CCQ. Shout out to Fia. It's really cool. Whenever a girl wins a tournament in the Lorcana community, I really like it when that happens because it encourages other women in general in the scene to start rising up, and now they have someone to look up to for a winner of a CCQ like this. And her deck is quite interesting for me. What do you guys think about this? Fast.
It's really cool to see Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin's kind of proven to be one of my favorite cards of the set. Like, I really like the underdog ability. And Christopher Robin, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, I don't really think this is the kind of underdog card I would want. I would want something more like Angel, which is like giving me some tempo back. But Christopher Robin is just like a reasonable 2-drop as an inkable card. So I think it's a really cool card. I'm a big Benja fan as well. I've always been a big Benja fan. And I think it definitely makes a lot of sense with the Chromicons. We see some Snow Forts in the mix as well. And this Pocahontas card absolutely caught my eye quite early on. So interesting to see that. You've got a lot of really good options. And obviously the Genie's in there too, which you could do the Genie Pocahontas combo. So it's definitely interesting. Personally, I wouldn't be too surprised if we also see some versions similar to this go even quicker with Fire the Cannons, for example. I might be a bit biased towards Fire the Cannons, though. I think it's my favorite card in the game, probably, as an aggro player. But it looks like a really nice build, and we know that Amethyst Steel is very flexible. And yeah, big congratulations to them. I've definitely seen them at quite a lot of events in the UK, and it's really awesome. I saw on their Instagram they posted that their goal for this year was to get to day 2 of a CCQ. So that to go all the way is just like an awesome story. So really happy to see that happening.
Yeah. It's Ultra Megatonic. I like how they're running 4 Olafs on this, because not only for the docks, but also you have 2 boost cards now for this color pairing, which makes a card like Olaf in general get bigger value, because the genie is also a threat in the meta. You cannot just leave that genie, because it's gonna keep putting cards down, and the more cards that it has, the card itself can quest for a lot. But having Pocahontas in the deck at the same time, meaning that you're getting double value from the boost that you're getting from that genie, because Pocahontas can benefit from that as well. I think that's my favorite part of the deck, as well as we have these now like ongoing threats. Now if you put down Yzma, sometimes you have to think, obviously Yzma would probably be the biggest threat, but now if you pick the Yzma, maybe they use the Yzma to bait you so they can protect their Cheshire Cat and they can gain the board, or their genie.
I like the deck list a lot. Basically, I mean, I think there's only one direction you can go when there's a super controlling deck above you, which is Blurple, which is you got to go aggro. Do I think that I can beat Blurple consistently? I don't think it can beat Blurple consistently, but if you get a lot of dogs matchups, you end up in a pretty good spot. Genie is a very interesting choice. Usually in that spot, we've had like Lexington or ways to deal with someone else's genies. So GG is the other new choice. So I'm like really interested to see if Genie ends up sticking around, or we end up reverting back to being able to deal with these things, right? Yeah, I think there's a couple of question marks on how we end up proceeding. I do think that Fire the Cannons will probably see play again, just because I think that dogs will probably be closer to 20% than it's ever been. So if that's the case, then Pocahontas might be in trouble as like a major tempo play. So let's see if this is a week 1 deck or it's a week 6 deck.
Yeah,
I mean, Angel as well looks really good, right? And that's the other weakness of Pocahontas, that same sort of threshold. And yeah, the Lilo card looks really interesting to me from the set. The 1/2, which has to take damage twice. You've definitely got real options in that slot anyway. And it's a good example, right, of a deck that's trying to sort of thread that needle between dogs and Blurple, right? Like you go quick enough, but not too quick where you can still beat dogs. And Purple Steel, unsurprisingly, is like one of those decks that can just sort of position itself where it needs to be. And
yeah. These are the type of purple steel list that I like facing against in the mirror, because I'm more of like a mid-range purple steel. I play a lot of purple steel, and this is exactly the list I want to face in the mirror, because it's going for a little more of like aggressive, greedier cards, while my choices usually are thicker and more durable cards. And of course, there's a downside to that, but yeah, I think the list is good.
Shout out to Mayor Wind Dancer.
That wins purple steel mirrors for sure. Burgermeister. Remember, it's Burgermeister. It's how we call it in German in the Rarehunters shop.
Burgermeister.
Yeah.
What is it about this deck that's making it like aggro to you guys? Because I'm looking at this as someone that's not played Amethyst Steel for a while. This looks, for me, not that aggressive. What is it about this deck that's making it?
So look at it as a scale of like, where let's say right now Blurple is the controlling deck and Dogs is the aggro deck, right?
Yeah.
Purple Steel is exactly in the middle. So now what you want to think is, which way are you leaning, right? So Calhoun will make you lean more towards control. Pocahontas is like a kind of like a little fireball, right? So you're like you're happy to get 3 like quest once and get 3 out of it, right? So that means you're leaning more this way. Now you're thinking about cards like Lexington and GG, and you're like, those cards would help me control genies, so it would make me go a little bit more to the right. But you can never ever get past Blurple. It's just in terms of where it is in position to the extremes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like to call this deck more like the regular purple steel that I usually run is what I call like the true mid-range, and I like calling this a fast mid-range because it's not still in the aggro side of things. It's just a mid-range heavier, going towards the aggro aspect of the deck, and fast mid-range is what I usually call this deck.
So the reason why I'll say it's aggro is because you're trying to. So I actually end up playing the deck a whole lot in the last 24 hours, just because we shot a bunch of videos for them. So essentially the difference between this deck and when we play the deck other times is, there's a thing called the vomit, right? When you're out of cards and you're trying to slam a Doc or a Demona or you've like set up a situation where Yzma is going to be able to allow you to draw cards. Essentially, during that vomit, it's now almost always correct to turn everything sideways. Whereas before, you kind of had to like thread the needle of a good moment of strengthening and then questing for a little bit and inching your way there. And that's one of the things is the amount of cards that quest for 2 or more has gone up significantly. So if you think back to set 9, the only card that quested for 2 in the entire deck was Genie. Now you can have a 2-quester on turn 1, on turn 2, on turn 3, on turn 4, and on turn 6.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Yep.
It's so much more.
Yeah.
If you were to say there are twice as many 2-questers, you'd say it's twice as fast. But what do you say when there's five times as many 2-questers? It just goes into the aggressive category, and that's the way you have to play it as well. And if you start playing it like you did the other purple steel deck, you will lose a lot, and you will be like, this deck is kind of bad. But if you play this as an aggressive deck, you'll win a lot.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about the finalist decks, and we have so much more to talk about. So we're going to hop on to the next topic, which is reacting to this meta. How do we react to this meta? Because DLC Ghent and Taiwan is coming up, and the Rarehunters are going to be in both of those events. So make sure to say hi to us if you guys see us. We don't bite, we just look like it. But how do we react to this meta?
You look like it. I don't know.
I do look like it.
I don't agree with this. Timo might bite.
Yeah, Timo might bite.
Oh,
yeah.
Never. I don't think I'll be wearing a Timo any DisneyLorcana challenges, if I'm honest. So that's a good idea.
Dude, I like it, dude. I like it. You didn't. We don't have to label it a Timo. It's just a Speci.
Yeah, it's just a Speci hat. Yeah. How do we react to this meta? What do you guys think you would do to react to this meta?
Buy the cannons 4 copies.
Yeah, I think the locations deck is a neat option. I think that's worth testing.
Yeah.
There's not very many decks that have that option.
Yeah. I'm in a spot right now where it's either I modify purple steel, which is really good at modifying itself, like adjusting to the meta, but also a big part of me just wants to say, I'm going to play dogs in Hyrule and hope that there's not a lot of Amber Ruby that joins the meta after this.
You actually want to play Amber Ruby. I legitimately think it's a great matchup. Yeah,
I wanted to ask about Amber Ruby. Looking at the meta spread from before, I was a little bit surprised to see it not more popular, because I think it's like a fan favorite color pairing. Do you think it's a good deck, or do you think it's just got like this good dog matchup and struggles elsewhere?
I mean, the Blurple people won't let go of Blurple, and so you have these dedicated fans that want to play Ruby Amethyst, but you just absolutely get decimated. They haven't got, like, if there was a red purple card that like punished Blurple, it would allow like red purple to come back into the meta. But right now the matchup is so lopsided, right? So that's the whole issue. The other aspect is, I'm going to tell you guys a story about DLC Richmond. We were playing in a team trios tournament, and I purposely, in the team trios tournament, you have to play a specific color combination. I was playing dogs in set 10, and the matchup would be worse against red purple, and I called out Kiyoshi to come play against me. When our team sat across from each other, I was like, Kiyoshi, you should play against me. I want a rematch. So we ended up playing against each other. And I know Kiyoshi is a great player from the UK who has had a record with red purple. So I figured he was playing the red purple slot. And yeah. And so I was like, okay, I want to play this. Why would I do that if I'm the dogs player? Is because the matchup is good. There's one key aspect to the matchup, and that aspect is playing a Chromacon and then using Lady to just keep bringing back your threats. So once you figure out that they can't deal with Chromacon no matter what, you're just going to win the matchup, as long as the rest of the elements are around, just keep getting more and more cards. So one play pattern I do is Chromacon, shift a Lady, they take out one of my characters, I put the Lady back in my hand. And then we do it all over again. And then my clock is always just going to be faster, because one cost Ladies and Daisies and all this stuff is just way faster than anything that they can deploy. And it's something that I've studied in the lab, and it's the main thing that's missing is the the rumor that's going around that red purple dominates dogs, and that is why the matchup is like lost majority of the time. It's an information gap. But once you conquer that gap, you realize you rather play against red purple every single time over purple steel. But the room was saying, oh, dogs can beat purple steel majority of the time. That is like misinformation.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on? Right? Like people have it completely wrong. So these are the things that if you spend time dissecting whether if the rumors are true or not, you'll find nuggets of mistruths that can allow you to do better in a tournament and have confidence when other people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, from my experience as an Amethyst Steel player, we were actually talking about this earlier in my stream. Like, to me, like Calhoun alone can almost single-handedly win that matchup, because I can exert everything and then take out something with the Calhoun, but because my game plan is to play wide and try to match as wide as they go, I'm exerting for a lot of lore as well as controlling their board. And whatever they bounce from me, it's okay, because I kept inking anyways, because I'm playing purple steel. I have enough cards to keep inking, and I just keep playing a very wide board, and whatever they bounce is cheap. I can just put it back plus another card while I'm minusing one their board and racing, taking out and gaining 2 lore.
Whenever I hear of the Emerald Chromacon, I remember having my mind blown by probably my favorite game of Lorcana last year, which was Zan versus Moyen, which was out on the floor in Bologna. I was obviously on the broadcast team for that event, but I went to go wander to see if I could go find something spicy. And then suddenly I just looked to my left and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm sitting down here. And I'd never really seen the Emerald Chromacon in action up until that point. And Zan ended up taking it, and I was watching it sort of from behind Moyen, and some of like Moyen's ink decisions I was so confused by, but then suddenly they all started to make sense, and it was such a tight game. And yeah, ever since then, like the Emerald Chromacon's been one of the most fascinating cards, but it's definitely a weakness of Blurple, for example, right, that they don't have natural item removal, but what they do now have is not only do you have the Hades, the Into the Unknown, but also 4 copies of Let It Go, which is one of the ways that you can control the board and bypass the Chromacon as well, right? So they don't even necessarily need the item removal. And I think that Let It Go as a reprint in this set is definitely another thing just pushing Blurple further to the top, right?
Yeah, that match was really, really awesome. One thing that really happened in that finals of Melbourne, which was Jonathan Lamb versus Molestar, was Dogs versus Blurple. And DKP usually plays Wasabis, and Jonathan Lamb decided not to play Wasabis for this event. And it's a best of 5, so Wasabi is going to matter if you have it in your deck or not. And so that was pretty much the storyline of that finals, is like, if Jonathan Lamb had Wasabi, what could he have flipped the matchup?
What was the final score in that best of 5?
I think it was 3-1. But
Okay.
if you have the Wasabi, it flips it's almost an auto win because you just wipe their board that turn. But if you don't have the Wasabi, your opponent has more of a potential to make a mistake, right? Because if you pose that you have the Wasabi and they're like, I can maybe win without opening myself up to Wasabi, which is something I noticed Molestar was missing inks to play it safe, because it's nerve-wracking being in the finals. I'm not sure what his exact reasoning was, but he was going for a safer route. So if there was Wasabi just in the deck list, it could have altered the entire state of that entire matchup.
Yeah, because I assume it would be open deck lists like any other DisneyLorcana Challenge final. So that's like part of the beauty, right, of open deck lists, is you know exactly what you do and don't have to play around. And I've played a lot of Chromacon in Milwaukee, and every time I got benjured, I just lost the game on the spot, because you just set up your whole strategy to get the Chromacon down at a certain point. You turn everything sideways, and if that Chromacon gets removed, your board gets wiped and you can't really recover from that. So not surprised to see like Benja making an entrance into the other deck. Emerald's got like Fred and Archimedes, Sapphire with Wasabi, as you mentioned as well, which really just shows you the power of some of these items as well. And even Clarabelle, 1 cost as well, of course, in Emerald, the Sapphire as well.
I definitely think that more colors deserve more ways to interact with items. I do think that it was cool early on, not giving colors ways to deal with certain things. But I think at this point, when we have a card as powerful as Chromacon and now Fort, we should definitely be able to sacrifice our slots to deal with it. Maybe they're not as good as other cards, like as good as a Benjo or Wasabi, but I think some decks like Ruby Amethyst would be willing to pay 5.
Yeah,
to deal with
I mean,
it.
we
right?
have a green Benja now. It's exactly
but we always had
the
Clarabelle, so
Yeah,
that was
that's
never
true.
that was never really an issue. It was always Ruby Amethyst that had the biggest issue, and also Amber. Amber has that issue as well. So yeah, I just think in a world where we don't have sideboards, let's just give the players an option to either make the correct decision of playing item removal or not playing item removal, because that is a very tough decision, which I do think is correct right now to be playing Benjas and Wasabis.
Yeah.
Clarabelles.
All right. So before we bring Carlo, aka CordedConch, in to talk about Purple Steel locations, we're gonna do a big shout out again for Speci for getting the best Teemo in Riftbound, and also for our teammate Rice Master. He got a Continentals invite for Riftbound. So shout out to all of them. Big round of applause again. Rice Master is such a beast. He's always like topping our events in Lorcana and 1 win away from his Continentals. But being able to do this here, as well as playing different like card games and performing exactly at the same level, I don't know how he does it, man. I don't know how he does it. He's I guess like the 20 years experience.
It's definitely a skill.
Yeah, 100%.
He did really well. He was 6-2 going into day 2. I was 7-1, but he managed to finish like basically the last round he won. I took the draw, so I think I finished 71st, which was basically a draw away. If that draw was a win, I would have snuck in. But it's so good to see him make it. Like, he went on a really good run on the last day. He's a brilliant player. I got to do some testing against him, and he put me in my place. Let me tell you that. He absolutely destroyed me. And I think he actually bubbled out on the best of Kaiser. I think he was very close to getting that best of Kaiser. So the bubble continues to haunt him. I sort of said to him, I saw him yesterday, sort of in the city of Bologna. I bumped into him. I was like, dude, you did it. You finally avoided the bubble. And then everyone else was looking at me like, not quite. So that's
another bubble.
Definitely a bit unfortunate. But no, he did great. So I also want to give a shout out to David on Rarehunters, who gave me a bunch of help with my deck list. Heading into the tournament, I was bouncing a lot of ideas off of him. That was a really great help. So yeah, great experience. I'm definitely keen to keep playing some Riftbound and hopefully hop in the casting booth as well. You want to see the list or the Teemo? Okay.
The Teemo. Wow.
Let's go.
That looks so fantastic.
Super Teemo on duty. Let's go.
Dang. That looks awesome.
Next event, you gotta dress up as a Super Teemo, bro. On the next event.
I actually managed to play probably my one and only game because these are tournament legal, because this is like your leader card. It just sits on the board. And I was at the airport in Munich doing a sort of layover. And there's another Lorcana creator, Lothar Halfstone, who's like got quite a big background in other card games. And him and I were jamming, and I just got to play my one game with my metal team before I think it's going to have to find a new home. But it's such an awesome thing. I'm really chuffed with it. It was a really fun event.
Also, one last shout out before we bring in our guest. Shout out to Gary M. Burns, who is an admin in the Lorcana community Facebook group, and he helped us get those images that we needed to get with the meta share. Sometimes I just DM him for some help, and he does it right away. And I really appreciate your help, dude. And you've been an amazing admin for the community. So shout out to Gary. He also judged Richmond. I met him finally. They're a very nice guy. All right, so now let's go bring in our guest, Carlo, Purple Steel Locations, aka CordedConch. All right, everyone, we're finally here with the People's Champ. We got the Purple Steel Location player that you all saw in DLC Melbourne. We got Carlo, aka CordedConch. How's it going? How are you, bro?
Yeah, I'm going great, man. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been an amazing journey.
Nice, nice. I just wanted to point this out really quick. We were in Hong Kong and I was talking to my teammates and we're like, we wonder what's gonna win DLC Melbourne. And I'm like, watch, my student Carlo is gonna win that. Purple Steel Locations is gonna win it. And you almost did it. You almost did it. You made it all the way to top 8 with
So
Purple
close.
Steel Locations. And no one expected that. So how was the experience, bro?
It was amazing. Like the atmosphere, the event, it was top notch. Starting off the day, I went 0-2. So started off a really, really bad run. And then game after game, I think I only won 2 dice rolls the first game, but just fought my way through to day 2. And yeah, it was fantastic.
Nice.
What seed were you?
28.
Oh, nice. Were there any X21s who made it?
I think there were 2 or 3 that made it. Unfortunately, one of my friends was X21 and he bubbled out on the 33rd spot. But yeah, I think there was just 1 or 2.
Yeah, I mean X21 making it, that hasn't happened in any other DLC, so that's incredible.
So I wanted to point out as well that Carlo only plays locations deck. How does that work for you for every set and your journey as a competitive player in general in Lorcana, just playing locations deck every set?
It's been interesting. Just to preface this, I started TCGs 18 months ago with a Shimmering Skies release. So I hadn't touched anything before that. And I took a liking to essentially the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs tribal build with Grumpy with Resist 2 when their knights are at locations. Like, John Silver's a good added to this deck, and then my whole thing switched from, Snow White, Seven Dwarfs tribal to John Silver locations. It's been an interesting journey. Like, it has been a bit hard sometimes because, meta changes and sometimes it doesn't happen. But like last set, at the start of the set, Purple Steel was rampant. And I wasn't winning any games because it's a very good matchup into me. But then by the end of it, Blue-Green was around because of Richmond and Fungus winning. And that's an amazing matchup for me. Every set I can't tell because it's like, well, it could be good, could be bad, but I'm going to stick at it. But the other thing is just making the best plays possible. Like if I can figure out a way into each matchup of, getting an extra 5% win rate against a certain deck, that's a huge thing if I can just eke out that over all of the decks.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing of a perk of being a specialist for a specific deck that other people who just picks up the deck can't do when they're piloting it, is that they didn't put enough time yet, that they don't understand how to just increase the chances of a bad matchup, increase it into not in your favor, but have a chance of actually winning it.
Yeah, I also
totally
think that
agree.
I was just gonna say I think that a lot more players could take a lesson from your book in the sense that dedicating themselves to a specific strategy and just trying to make bad matchups better, I think is a really great strategy in becoming a great player quicker, and also in a good color combination that gives you access to a lot more tools than other decks, other colors. Yeah, super impressive.
I've had my eye on locations quite a bit this set actually, and it's a really, really fascinating list. There's a lot of things I love about it. You've got 4 Fire the Cannons, which I sort of said just as you join is something I really love to see. Amethyst Chromicon is a personal favorite card of mine for a very long time. Zootopia as a new location I think is absolutely brilliant. The card I wanted to ask you about is the 2 copies of Elsa's Ice Palace, because this is a 3-cost uninkable location. It's only got 4 willpower, but very powerful potential. It's always a card I've been quite interested in. I've never actually played it, but I've always wanted to. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this card in particular.
Yeah, look, Earlmeister knows this. I absolutely love the card. It is one of the best locations in the game. The issue is that it's uninkable. I've been tossing up, 2, 3, 4 copies. I think one of my iterations this set was actually removing it, and then I'm like, nah, it needs to be back. It is super powerful going into matchups like the blue-green matchup where they're like, I've got to get a big character on board to start taking control. They throw down their Clarabelle, they sing You're Welcome. I'm like, okay, I freeze it. What do? They're expecting to use that to, sing and get stuff, and then they have to drop another character and start swinging, and that's like 2 to 3 turns before they can actually start to get back in the game. By then I've, flooded the board and run away with it. And game 2 on the live stream, I took out their Tiana. He had to make the choice of, hey, do I need to get my Tiana back online by sinking all my resources into taking it out? Or do I not worry about it? And then that's also powering up John Silver. That Tiana play was essentially a 3 lore on board turnaround because it deactivated Tiana from questing for 2, and I was gaining an extra lore. Additionally, it took his Singer offline, which meant that, Strength of a Raging Fire going into all of the characters is no longer there. I can't stress it enough that I really rate the card, and I really hope it gets reprinted in a couple of sets' time.
Yeah. I just wanted to comment on that. He loves the card so much. He used to have a 4 of on every single version of it on every single set. He has a 4 of, and I have to convince him really hard that we cannot have a 4 of this in an aggro deck because it's the 3 cost on Inkable. You will always be forced to play for this. And if you draw multiple copies of this, it's going to be really, really bad for you. So a 1 or 2 of it max is totally fine. And it catches people off guard in general. I was like a soccer mom on the DLC stream. I was on chat and you said that you rewatched it. I was cheering so hard for you. And when you played Ice Palace, the crowd goes wild. Everyone is just like, bro, the Ice Palace is MVP, and I'm like, yeah, that's his favorite card right there. I was so happy that it ended on your final list.
All right, I have a ton of questions. I have a lot of questions. A lot of questions. All right, so okay, we'll start off with Elsa, Ice Palace. When you were building the deck, what were the decks that you were thinking were the target for this card? Like, what in an ideal situation, you're like, obviously you had the Tiana situation, but Tiana going into the tournament was probably not going to be a high percentage of the tournament, right? So what were the decks that you were thinking, and what was the scenario you were thinking, oh, I'm going to Ice Palace in this situation and against this matchup, and it will fix all my problems?
So there are a couple of cards that I specifically would look to keep it in my hand to drop to lock down their play. One was the Blue Peat, where they can essentially do the Visions of the Future type filtering. It's a 5/5 body, and that's a big hit to my location. So locking him down was good, as well as like hitting their card draw, because now they can't do any card draw with that card. I've used it a bit on Hades just to lock him down from doing the singing style with Blurple. It's usually the high hitting cards that I would try to lock down. Unfortunately, I didn't see any blue-green on day 1, just 1 on day 2.
So
otherwise, it would have been used more.
It seems as though you're thinking about Blurple when you're thinking about playing Ice Palace. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about cards on why you basically didn't end up playing these cards. Like, for example, one of the cards we have to talk about is the name of the set, Winter Spell, right? Cost 1. It's an action, and then you can't challenge locations, and you draw a card. Like, on paper, it seems like that's one of the first cards I would want to include, especially if you're playing Amethyst, Cormacon, and Elsa's Ice Palace. So talk to me about your decision not to play Winterspell.
So I have tried it quite a lot. It felt good in some situations, but also really bad in other situations. If I don't have any locations out, it's literally just replace itself. And when I've only got 3 ink on board or 2 ink on board, replacing itself really isn't that good. And I felt like the times that I was playing it, they weren't able to really hit the locations anyway. So it didn't really give that benefit of, the locations have that protection. I feel like if you're running a mid-range version of this deck, where it's a tiny bit slower, it definitely has a fit into it. But as an aggro player, I want to go as fast as I can. And if I prefer to play, say, a Mulan over it and filter for that Cobra to finish the game off than to get an extra lore from, the location sticking around an extra turn.
I also have tested Winterspell because it's a card which definitely caught my eye. It was in my testing with Ruby Steel, which is probably not the best color combination. I was extremely underwhelmed by it. Like, on paper, it looked to me like brilliant. It replaces itself. It gives you a lore. but I can definitely see why you went away from it. I also can see an argument as why you would want to play it, but it's definitely a card which I was extremely excited about, and it didn't meet those expectations for me in my not massive testing, admittedly.
Yeah, basically, I felt like, okay, so I like Elsa's Ice Palace, but then I don't like Ice Palace without Winter Spell. So those two cards to me are like
Match made in heaven.
tied together,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, okay, one was played, one wasn't played. One is free to play, one is not free to play. I'm like, okay, I'm like trying to figure out, okay, what other aspects? So the argument here is like, okay, aggro. Aggro is the key situation. So now the question is, why not go faster by playing, what's the new underdog purple card?
Christopher Robin. It's also the card
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that I think would look pretty good here.
Yeah. Like if you want to go aggressive, wouldn't this card be perfect for that? And on top of that, isn't Pocahontas pretty broken with John Silver?
Yeah. Let's start with Christopher Robin. I had him in there. I needed more reach, just straight up. And that's where the 2 Honey Mary came from. I know Elle probably in our last session advised against it, but I felt like I was getting to 18, 19 lore quite consistently with Blurple, and I needed that extra reach to push it over the edge. And so that's where Honey Mary switched out for Christopher Robin to help finish out the game. I felt like my early lore wasn't the issue. It was the late lore in the game. Just closing it out so that they can't, control me too much.
Also, Pocahontas versus Nala. That's a
Pocahontas. Okay, so I tried Pocahontas a lot. It felt so good. There were a couple of matches where I had 2 Pocahontases out with John Silver and 3 locations, and it's just like GG. The issue is the start of the game. Like, where does Pocahontas fit? Because if I play her on 2, she can get Fire the Cannons or Strength of a Raging Fire or anything like that. She's lost all of her update.
But no one plays Fire the Cannons, and then Strength of a Raging Fire, it doesn't come down till later, right? Fastest clock would be the 1/3 into Pocahontas into John Silver. If you do that play, that's like the most aggressive play ever, right? So basically, I'm like trying to think, okay, so we're still in the mid range category because of the location deck, right? Because we can still go even faster. So I'm like trying to figure out, okay, where do we need to land with the deck? The deck landed here, and where are we gonna go in the future? Do you think we're gonna go more aggressive, or you think we're gonna go less aggressive?
I don't know.
I think that depends on the meta, right? Like,
yeah. Go on, Elle.
It's really cool that Zan is asking all these questions, because this is everything that we went through with the coaching session as well. I think the problem with Pocahontas is if you're not running Christopher Robin, the only target that you really have if you want to gain early lore with Pocahontas was your pirate, your Captain Hook. And Captain Hook is not the best at exerting when there is a threat on the board and they can take it out. And I think the big payoff for Pocahontas is when Pocahontas actually exerts on turn 4, because then on turn 4 you can play all the locations, and John Silver has multiple lore now. So whatever John Silver is gaining, Pocahontas is gaining as well. I mean, there's a perk on running her, but like, yeah.
Well, basically what we're trying to do is there are different purple seal decks that did well, right? And so we're like thinking about, okay, this is a purple seal location deck that did this weekend. Where do we want to take this deck? Number 2 is we saw that a worse Pocahontas purple steel deck did well, right? The mid-range purple steel deck won Leicester, right? So we're looking at that one, and this Pocahontas and Genie, which is Pocahontas and John Silver, seems like way more broken. So I was like, okay, well, so like what's
Nala's a synergy, but yeah, I would be scared of Fire the Cannons if I'm playing for Pocahontas.
No one's playing it.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think that's the issue there. I think it's just the way that the whole deck is built, that you don't have a lot of targets with Pocahontas early, although you can make up for it if you do the John Silver thing. But the thing as well is that if you don't find Captain Hook on turn 1, you're eventually is forced to play Pocahontas at some point, because she's an inkable, unless you obviously get the Cobra and you can just discard her. But if the line goes towards 1 cost location, then Pocahontas is not really gaining much from it. It's like finding the spot for it.
So like basically the last piece in the puzzle is okay. So since we're not the most aggressive version, the strength, that's the last piece. Is like, okay, we chose not to play strength. And so you earlier you were saying strength because Ice Palace is kind of replacing strength.
Yeah, I've trialed strength in this deck a lot, and I found that it doesn't have the characters for it. Like most games, I get 2 to 3 locations out. Okay, versus that for most other decks, they would have 2 to 3 characters out, which means that okay, I'm going to have a damage of 1, maybe 2, and who am I going to sing it? Do I really want to sing it on John Silver? Not really. So it doesn't have the same level of impact that other decks have. Now, I was tossing up before the tournament running Smash for 3 damage instead of just the 2, and it's inkable. But I was, this is speed running a deck build, to get Winterspell all up to scratch. I was like, nah, I'll stick with Fire the Cannons. I know it. It's tried and tested.
Yeah, and Smash also feels like for an aggro deck, it's one of those cards that feels it's like you're playing to not lose when the game should be playing to win, right? Because it's a 3-cost down tempo play for you. You're not establishing anything on board to accomplish your goal of gaining as many lore as you can. Sure, like you're taking out 1, but they're just gonna replace that. Maybe you gain 1 lore instead of like just setting up more lores, because three inks if you're not playing John Silver is a power play for you. Because then you can play a 1-cost location and then a 2-cost character that can quest for 3.
Yeah, I'm talking about the play where you make White Rose. Play strength, play like your 1-drops in a bunch of locations, and just ends up being like a free card in that situation. Because like cards like obviously like cards like Calhoun and stuff like that can be problematic in the fact that they can take out a bunch of stuff. Or basically that's what I'm like thinking through. I'm like, okay. So the other card that's interesting is Library. So you don't feel like you have a lot of characters. So, but Library usually on rate is so hard to remove.
Yeah, I totally agree. Library is a great card. I did toss it up in my testing. Now with Library, it just cost like this is the thing is I was tossing up in the slot of Elsa's Ice Palace, and Elsa's Ice Palace, whilst it is much easier to remove, I felt provided more utility in the game than Library. Most of the time, I wasn't really getting the benefit of drawing cards off the Library because I wanted to do power plays rather than moving. I wanted to, quest out hard. But yeah, it's an interesting one. If people are less comfortable running so many uninkables, I would switch out Elsa's Ice Palace for the Library.
What was the final uninkable count again?
It's 19. 19.
Yeah,
Okay.
19.
But you only need to make it to 3 ink anyways. Your deck is super functional, and especially if
Zootopia is so
fixes
good.
fixes everything.
So good. It's a fairy ship which, if you move in though, you get to draw and discard. So it's awesome. I gotta say, I would not want to play strength in this deck either. I'm a bit of a strength hater at times with these sort of like aggressive shells. I definitely think that you probably just want to be questing, and very often you wouldn't actually, if you're not playing John Silver on 3, you probably just don't want to be playing a 3-drop, right? And I can definitely see there being like a fine balance between the amount of locations and characters you have. I think Christopher Robin is the card that stands out for me that I would want to put in this, but that's because it fits in nicely with the fire the cannon sort of approach, right? If you go in second, Christopher Robin on turn 1, and then on turn 2, maybe you drop like a fairy ship or a Zootopia plus a fire the cannons or something like this to get some quick starting. And I definitely think Pocahontas would be interesting as well. But you've got such a tough decision there with the uninkables, right? Like Pocahontas can come in, but then you lose access to Nala, which we know is like a really good aggressive card as well.
I just wanted to add like the lingo because of we've been working for a year now, and we know all the location cards that existed and got rotated out, and he calls the Zootopia a fairy ship with the filter when we call it the upgraded Bayou. Because the card existed before. The same thing with Castle Wyvern, right? It's the upgraded Maui's Place of Exile or Place of Exile. Yeah.
So I just want to touch on Castle Wyvern. It is an amazing card. Like being able to move Calhoun there and take out the cat, it is top notch.
So is there any changes you would make before I go play the list after this?
Well, Some people ask why I have only one Lilo in the deck. It's because I can't have 5 Nalas. So if you can make it legal to play 5 Nalas, that'd be great.
So I'm looking for a fifth Nala.
Yeah. So the next question that I have for you is basically tell us about your, it's not a question, it's more of like just wanting to know about your DLC experience, because you've only been to one DLC before this. This is your second DLC. Tell us about your experience in Melbourne.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I've been to DLC Melbourne last year. I went to the DLC Q in Auckland last year as well, which is a bit smaller of an event, but then back to Melbourne. You know, it was crazy. I started off the day, as I said before, 0-2, and then I just locked in and went through. The support that I got from everybody, especially from the Adelaide crew, was amazing. They all got around me, and the Adelaide crew is where I'm from. So we had about 30 players that came across, and they were all ecstatic to see how I went. It was one of the things I wanted to do at DLC was be on live stream and win, to show the world what this deck can do. And I managed to do that. I think everybody took notice about John Silver with 4 locations questing for 5. And it's nice to have that validation, because I've been doing this deck for a while, but you know, no one really has done it on a world stage like this before. So it's quite amazing to be in that position. And I'm very thankful for everything that I've been able to do. And here I am talking to some of the best people in the world playing the game, and they're quizzing me about the deck as well. It's just been a whirlwind.
It's been great, honestly. I just want to say I'm so proud of you for sticking with something that you enjoy and mastering your craft and making it work, right? When most people would think that you were crazy for running this deck in a DLC, but you taking it all the way to top 8, it's just very impressive. And it's like the quote that I did before the first time I posted about you on Facebook with like Bruce Lee: fear not the man who learned 10,000 kicks, fear the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times. I think it's an ultra megatonic quote from Bruce Lee that fits very well on what you did.
Yeah, a lot of respect. I just want to say it's really hard to battle back from 0-2, and that makes it all the more impressive.
Thank you guys so much for your...
And thank you for answering my questions. I know they've been difficult, but I'm honestly a sponge, and I'm just trying to learn from your experience. Super cool deck, and I'm definitely going to play it as is before I try anything new.
I think it's like...
I just want to... go on.
I think it's just like it's such a good thing to get a big result, but it's all the sweeter doing it with like your pet deck and something you've worked like so passionately about. And the fact that Elsa's Ice Palace is in there and it popped off in a big way, that's like all the sweeter. So big credit to you. I think that's really, really awesome. I'm definitely interested in the deck as well. But as Zan is as well, and as you are, we all have our sort of like pet cards, right? And part of the fun of a card game is then like tweaking and tinkering, and I think that this is looking like a really interesting deck, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the John Silver popping off in Ghent as well.
I just want to say thank you guys so much for your kind words. It means a lot having you guys quiz me on the deck, and me hoping to explain myself as much as I can, but also I'll take another look at all of these cards. You know, this deck is not finished. It's in its state version 19 at the moment, but you know, where's it got to go this set? I don't know. And then we'll reset again next set. You know, we'll have a whole bunch of new cards to test out. But no, thank you so much for the kind words. It really means a lot.
Awesome. Well, we're basically closing it here. Any closing thoughts or final thoughts or any shout outs that you want to do at all?
I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who helped me trial this deck. Earlmeister, of course, we had so many sessions on different locations decks over the years. So thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to other people who helped me, which was Carly, Ben, and the Platypus group. I want to give a shout out to Speci. She supported me so much throughout the tournament. And a shout out to the Adelaide crew, because they have been amazing as well.
Nice. Where can we find you, bro?
I don't really have much of an online presence. I we'll try and stick around in the comment sections if people have questions to ask me. But yeah, no, I just love the game, and I'm here to answer anyone's questions. And I'm so excited to see what comes out of Ghent and the other DLCs. Hopefully I've inspired a few other people to take this line of new meta.
Yeah, if you have any links that you want to share, everyone, we're gonna be putting it on the description. Again, I just want to give a big thanks to you for doing this interview for us. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed how curious Zen is, and with all the questions both Zen and Speci with your deck, and I'm like, oh crap, Zen is putting him in the spot. I'm like, but you know your thing. And yeah, we're gonna do the final shout outs and just plugins now. Speci, Zen, do you guys want to talk about that really quick?
Shout out to Timo.
And also, you're doing a Metafy guide for it, right? Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm going to do a guide. I'm doing coaching as well. So if anyone wants coaching for Ghent, that's open. And I'm doing a guide for my boy Timo here. So if any of you guys want some spicy decks for Ghent, I've got them. Yeah, I've got a lot of them. That's for sure.
Zen?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out some gameplay videos, we do a versus series of different decks. We're definitely going to be doing your locations deck. You should tell us what we should play against. What would you like us to play against?
Aggro is an interesting one because you're both trying to be the aggro, and it's like how that balance works. If you want a tough grind, I'd go into purple steel. But if you want to absolutely demolish, just go blue-green.
Yeah, I want to see blue-green. I want to see
blue-green.
Yeah.
We'll do a blue-green. I'll do a dogs because you said that one is really interesting.
So I'm going to do my plugins as well. You can find me anywhere, Earlmeister, on all of my social media. And also, if you need some coaching as well for Metafy, I do a lot of coaching, just like what I do for CordedConch here. I do all sorts of deck. And yeah, I just want to do a big shout out to Rarehunters, and thank you guys for making the first episode explode. Like that was crazy support from everyone, and we are glad that you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. And again, let us know in the comments down below what you think we can do to keep improving, because this show, it's not for us, it's for you. And smash that subscribe button. Let's go. All right, everyone.